Hi, folks. Welcome to the 5th Right Videocast. We're going to try and stay Scottish today. Stuart, you noticed, was he a Welshman at Scottish Questions yesterday with a suggestion that you weren't too happy with?
Yes, it was a union-licking Welsh Labour politician who demanded that the Tory government bypass the Scottish Parliament and hand any extra money from the Barnett consequentials, or whatever you call it, direct to the councils. I'd like to know what the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, had to think about that.
That would have been interesting. But this is Labour's only political stance in the devolved governments. It's we've still got power at council level, so we want the money to go to where we're in power at council level. Because they've no power above that. I'd be very surprised, as you say, if what's the guy's name? The First Minister,
Mark Drakeford.
Mark Drakeford is very happy about that. Jimmy,
it's also completely unconstitutional in terms of how the devolution settlement works. So it shows that said Welshman is thick as mince, and also shows just how embarrassed he must have felt when Alistair Jack, who is hardly an intelligent man and hardly a consummate politician, had to point that out to him, that what he was suggesting was entirely illegal under the Scotland Act.
But it just points out just how pro-Tory the Labour Party is.
I wouldn't go that far. I think the Labour Party in Wales are looking at Scotland and crapping themselves. They've got to be wondering what's going to happen with Plaid Cymru, because they are making gains in Wales, Plaid Cymru.
And if Plaid can attract a level of talent for the next elections, then Labour are in serious trouble. You know, if they're putting up decent candidates with a decent manifesto that's very different to what people are experiencing in Wales now, you're right, Labour are in all kinds of bother.
Well, I think Wales is kind of where Scotland was pre-2007. I mean, they're not doing a great job, and it might be financial. I'm not going to slag them off for policy because I don't know enough about it. But Welsh Labour and the devolved Parliament down there is not getting great numbers.
They have a total different demography and geography. South Wales is just across a bridge from Bristol. Bristol's bigger than Cardiff. There's a huge interconnection there. North Wales depends on Liverpool. That's its big city. And the border itself in between is just completely porous, but down Shrewsbury way.
They've also got 20% of their population that's English. We've got what, 4, 5?
Oh, no. In Edinburgh, it's supposed to be 20%.
Which is just a pile. By the way, the English population in Edinburgh now will be about 1%, mate. They've all aimed to clean the universities shut.
Or could I suggest they've maybe nipped up to their holiday homes in the Highlands?
Like, in Deeside.
Like someone I haven't mentioned.
Chucky.
So
sorry about that.
All right. I think he's been found out. Prince Charles has been really shat on from all directions. He's made a huge mistake. It's just meaning that the monarchy is going to be attacked by people that wouldn't normally attack it.
Well, I noticed the Herald were attacking George Caravan for questioning the intelligence of anybody coming up from England showing symptoms, apparently, to Scotland. I'd like to know how he got up here. Did he come up by private jet?
No, they usually RAF, RAF fly them about.
But he knew he had symptoms. He should not have travelled. And he wasn't the only person on the jet. They didn't come up as a couple. They've brought people with them. And he's infected people in his household, possibly.
Apparently,
So
his household have been in shopping in Ballater, the local village, before anybody knew that Charles was infected. So nobody was taking any precautions.
Well, Sturgeon's discussion today, she was asked about hotspots. It'll be interesting to see if there's any publicity about Ballater turning into a hotspot.
That'd be locked down if that became the case, mate. We would never get to know about it for 30 years.
Aye, true. Well, until we get our independence in 15 minutes.
Well, 15 minutes, I'd be delighted, mate.
That was another interesting question that was asked at the press conference with the First Minister today, was what's the difference between the spread in Scotland and the spread in England?
Did he want to answer questions like that, mate?
Well, she said, we're behind London and most of England, but it's obviously going to travel north. But
the Scottish statistics have been published. Somebody's done it. I don't think it's an official publication. There aren't any real hotspots. North Lanarkshire. The official ones have been
published as well, but they didn't want us comparing them. They want politicians and Nicola Sturgeon as guilty as everybody else. The politicians want it to be treated as a united kingdom, a united front, that Britain is fighting this thing. They didn't want to do.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't think I agree with that. I mean, Nicola
I'm not sure that's what she wants, but my impression today, I wrote it down after I've sat there and took notes at today's presser, and my impression all along is that we're like second division here in Scotland. I mean, you analyse the answers to those questions about PPE and ICU beds and things like that, and they're still very evasive here in Scotland about. It's as if to say, well, we have.
I didn't think so, mate. I thought Jean Freeman was quite impressive in that she basically said, we will not have an issue. We have stocks. We have sent out stocks. The complaints and the problems about PPE aren't coming out of Scotland. They're coming from England. Have you heard of any Scottish doctors setting up a charity to buy their own equipment? No.
Well, the thing that really impressed me about her as a politician, and Jean Freeman's been a political animal all her days. I mean, she was CP, then she was Labour Party, now she's a minister in the Scottish government. So she knows how to field questions. But she turned around and said, look, we've got plenty stocks. We had to get them tested because the date stamp on them was 2019. They've been tested by, and then she listed all the people that have tested them, and they've been found to be fine. So we've got plenty stock. What was the question where she turned around and said, I don't know? There was, and that's what I found refreshing about the Scottish pressers, is when they didn't know, they've said, we don't know, there's no way to know. I mean, I'd far rather know that the information wasn't there than it was being hidden or avoided.
Well, there was one little gem that they discussed today, which I hadn't heard anything about before. And they were talking about genome type the virus. In other words, identifying the virus could be analyzed and they could identify different varieties of it, so they could then identify who passed it to who.
Well, that's what I was talking about before we came on air, when I was on about mutations.
That's work that's came for China.
Well, there's been, Chinese... I think, the last information I saw on this, there was 5 variants of this particular coronavirus that had been identified. I mean, there'll be more than that now, I would think. Hopefully it'll mutate to only affect unionists. So, do we think Prince Philip should be fined and put in jail?
Well, there's no procedure.
I don't think Prince Philip's alive. Are we meeting Prince Charles?
Oh, sorry, Prince Charles.
Aye, I
You
Where
don't
got him
is?
think
muddled
Prince Philip's.
yesterday. Yesterday you
I
called him
didn't.
the
I
I don't
Duke.
think Philip's alive. I think she's snuggled up to a spitting image puppet down there in bloody Sandring or wherever they're hiding.
I did. I get them all mixed up. They all look the same to me.
Hmm.
I just, I suppose you have to be a fan to care which one's which. And I'm not.
I don't think they have fans, do they? They just have lackeys.
I
Did you see
have
that
to.
joke? Did you see that joke about Prince Charles is self-isolating in Aberdeenshire with COVID-19, and Prince
Aye.
Andrew's self-isolating in Windsor with Jennifer, aged
No,
14.
Aye, there's quite a few did around. I seen a lovely meme with a picture of Princess Diana laughing, and the tagline underneath it was, "He's got what?"
To be fair to them, they do shake a lot more hands than we do. So I suppose it's almost inevitable that one of them would have got it.
They kind of get awfully well weighed in for shaking hands, so mate, you know what I mean?
It's no bad money. It's no bad money. Stuart, you were
So,
talking earlier about New York.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've left a gap in my notes. I was hoping to go and find some stats from Governor Cuomo, the governor of New York State. He's in charge. They don't, who's Blasio, the mayor of New York, doesn't seem to be a high profile one. It looks as though it's at state level. But he's been portrayed in the American media as competent and getting on with the job. You can guess who he's been compared to. I don't need to mention his name, the clown in the White House. So he's been doing live pressers on CNN, so it's been easy to follow what they've been doing. Generally speaking, they seem to be talking huge figures, thousands and thousands of ventilators and thousands of beds and all the rest of it. And we just don't get that kind of information in this country at all. And I'm talking about the UK.
But they're not even talking about shutting down, are they?
New York's in lockdown.
New York is, but I'm
Mhm.
talking about the federal government are not talking about shutting anything down.
no,
They're not
because the
taking
federal
any
government's led by an
responsibility.
ass.
Well, they're not taking any responsibility. I mean, Trump seems to be quite happy for the states to take responsibility so that he can blame whoever's in charge of them. That's the
Yeah, but look,
impression I get.
if they try to lock down America, they've all got guns. They'll all be out on the streets shooting each other.
Sorry.
Somebody moans and leaves because there's too many people in the park. In New York, in Texas, they'd shoot them.
I really don't want you talking about my Texan family like that, Stuart. The Texans are a very reasonable and level-headed group of people.
Yes.
Well, I've got support on
Can
the
we
family.
talk about the lack of support that it seems our Chancellor's about to give to self-employed people?
Can he get away with not giving them 80%?
Well, Tom Newton Dunn for the Sun started flying a kite quite late last night, early this morning, which would indicate that, what he's going to do is going to cut out around 40% of these people straight away. They're just not going to be included in the scheme. And then the people that are included in the scheme will get around about 75 to 80% based on the last 18 months of their books. But they're going to have to wait 8 weeks for it. And if you're not happy waiting 8 weeks, you can go and sign on.
So if
and
anybody,
get universal credit.
So what's been floated is anybody that's been self-employed for less than 18 months is getting now.
Aye.
Anybody that's over a certain income?
Anybody that gets an income who's actually self-employed in that they are subbing whilst having a job at the same time, they'll get nothing because they should be getting support through the other scheme. And anybody that's earning over 30 grand a year as a self-employed person, they're probably going to be cut out as well because they'll deem that you've got enough to survive on. The 8 week thing's bugging my happiness straight away because basically it's saying we're hoping that this thing's going to burn itself out by about the end of April, early May, and we'll not have to give you anything at all.
I tell you what, there'll be hell to pay. There will be hell to pay.
There will be. Well, mate, that's why they're waiting until 4:30 this afternoon to announce it when there's no politician left in London because they've all flown home.
That would be quite simply outrageous.
Did you catch the European Parliament this morning? Not for any length of time, but for this question of there not being people sitting in the chamber. Apparently, they've managed to come up with a system for people to do video conferencing for their voting and taking part. And so, why couldn't they do it in Westminster?
Modern Parliament. That's the first thing to say.
That and the fact that Boris doesn't want to do it. Boris has, come on, he's got a track record of not wanting Parliament to sit, guys, after proroguing it last year. He really doesn't want Parliament to sit.
It's one of the things I was disappointed in. I mean, it might be happening and we don't know about it, but I do think Nicola Sturgeon should have invited other party leaders at least into some sort of pandemic group.
They had a meeting last week, Norrie, on last Wednesday, because it was referred to a couple of times at Scottish Questions last week.
Right
I
enough,
don't know if it's an ongoing thing.
It's only a week ago, isn't it?
Yeah. Aye, but
feels like longer.
Mate, it feels like a month the way that things are moving at the moment. Aye, but I don't know if it's an ongoing thing. And I get the impression that maybe her, Jackson Carlaw, kind of agreed on a couple of things, whereas Tricky Dicky really didn't, and Wee Willie Rennie was just sitting twiddling his thumbs in the corner because nobody really wants to speak to him anyway.
No, their meeting must have been Tuesday night, and it was a video conference.
Well,
they didn't sit in a room together.
Let's be honest, guys. We're sitting here on a program called Zoom, which incidentally the British government uses, but has stopped using because they don't think the encryption is good enough. But we're sitting here doing it. I don't see why they can't. It's not difficult.
Jimmy's right, and they don't want it.
They didn't want Parliament sitting, mate. Come on, Boris Johnson, as I say, he's got a track record. That specific reason for announcing any of their plans today or from any time onwards is because there will be no parliamentary oversight of these discussions. So their decisions. You're going to get the only oversight you're going to get is on Newsnight, on TV programmes. You're not going to get parliamentary committees actually questioning the people that have come up with these policies.
Well, Jimmy, you just suggested that the BBC will be criticising the government.
Actually, Newsnight's no bad for criticising the government, mate.
Newsnight was interesting last night. That's the first time they've had a government minister on since, I think, the election. Yeah. Because they got blackballed by Cummings. But who did they put on?
A spanker, eh?
Aye, but he never answered. He never answered a question.
Who did they put on?
They pick him.
What's his name? Sawawi.
Sorry,
but that's why they pick him, mate, because he doesn't answer questions. I mean,
no, but who is this? Sorry, can you somebody tell me who was on?
Nadeem Zahawi.
All right, I never heard of him.
Oh, you don't watch political programs. He's the guy they put on because he can make a 3-word sentence into a 50-word sentence and still never ask the question. The number of times he tried to turn the question into what he answered instead of answering the question.
Aye. I thought Emily Maitlis gave him an absolute roasting last night. He was sweating. He was bright red, which takes some doing when you're in a TV studio and they've slathered you in makeup. But he was really toiling, really struggling last night, and I found it most gratifying to watch.
Well, he eventually surrendered and went, "Oh, you'll have to ask Matt Hancock." It was really totally evasive. It was not a good look at a time like this.
I think part of the problem, mate, is that every single time the government have made an announcement or made a decision throughout this pandemic, they've changed their mind. They've not stuck to anything. They've rode back on stuff. They've had to come back and say, by the way, we're not quite right there. Matt Hancock's spent yesterday saying that they had 12,000 ventilators, and then it turned out the Department of Health had to come in and say, no, what he meant was 8,000. He just misspoke.
And
I've
then,
never met anybody who's misspoke the number 8 for the number 12 about 50 times in one day.
And he got captured on the testing. There was,
Mhm.
what, 6,500 tests yesterday,
Yeah.
not 10,000, not 25,000.
And by the way, their ambition to get to 250,000 is an absolute nonsense, eh? That's about as likely as Boris being a born-again virgin.
Well, that's the difference I noticed between the Scottish government and the Westminster government. The Scottish government have played it much smarter. They've said, we don't know when we don't know. Matt Hancock, can he help himself? He's got to exaggerate, you know.
I think he's quite smooth as Matt Hancock. He never looks flustered.
Aye, but he keeps getting caught out in lies.
Mm.
That's the problem. Instead of saying we're aiming for 12,000, he said we've got 12,000.
Mm.
You know, so nah.
I think it's maybe just a Tory thing, mate. They've lied throughout their career to actually get as far up the greasy pole as they've got, unless daddies bought them their position. So these working class Tories, the likes of your Priti Patels and what have you, they've had to clamber over the bodies all the way up. So they didn't mind lying. It just got second nature to them.
But they got their money by selling their souls, those ones.
I'm pretty sure Priti Patel never had a soul, ever, mate. You look into the eyes, mate. I've seen corpses that are more animated than that.
Not very pleasant to me. Anything cheerful to end on, guys? Come on.
We can all go out and clap tonight at 8 o'clock. They're not manipulating us in any way, shape or form, but we can all go and stand at our doors and clap to thank the heroes that are working in our NHS and in our Sainsbury's and what have you. Because if we do that, and guaranteed people will, then that'll be the footage that they show on all the news stories tomorrow. And fair play, I do support the people that are working hard, but I don't support this government in any way, shape or form. And I'm not prepared to jump through any hoops that they choose to put out for us.
Well, I intend to show my support of our wonderful heroes in the NHS by letting my wife cook my tea.
Well, I do hope she cooks your tea before she watches this, Norrie, or there's every chance you'll get the pokes put about your napper, mate.
Well, I have to say I should apologise there actually, because I'm cooking tea tonight.
All right, you slithered out of that one quick.
Well, I'm cooking the pasta sauce anyway.
All right. Well, look, I got a phone call from the Royal Infirmary, this morning, checking up on whether I was going to be required to go in for an elective consultation on Tuesday, and they decided I shouldn't come in.
An elective consultation. I reckon this is a conspiracy to get rid of you, Stuart. You specifically. No anybody else.
Possibly.
Just you. They're prepared to slaughter half the population just to get you.
I mean, it's got to the point where I'm virtually the oldest person in my family, virtually the oldest person amongst my peer group, virtually the oldest person about everybody ever went to the pub with. I can see why that you might think that, Norrie.
And you're also far too near the camera because you're incredibly ugly.
Nothing I can do about that. At least I hadn't to worry. Look, at least I didn't have to worry about getting old.
Well, there is that, and that's not to say I'm any better
people
looking.
Worry about getting old. You know, their face is turning ugly. Well, I've always had this face, so I'm well used to it.
Well, that explains why I'm no bothered how I look. Says he with his beard. With his beard.
Yeah, you're not got a face mask over that.
No, that's true. That's true. I hope you remember that. If they stick an oxygen mask on you, mate, there'll be leakage.
Nobody wants to think about leakage or seepage, and this goes out about tea time.
That's true. Although I don't think we'll have to edit today. I think we've been all right. I think we'll call it a day at that, guys, if you're all okay with that. Thank you, Stuart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart. Thanks for watching, folks. And those of you that listen, thanks for listening. Cheers for now.